Hello, everybody. My name is Israel Michael, and you're welcome again to LogTech 5 Days Online Bootcamp Training tonight. And so we began since Monday. On Monday, we looked at cybersecurity essentials. On Tuesday, we looked at how to set up a hacking lab. And then on Wednesday, even yesterday, we looked at phishing attacks and also how to verify if a link is malicious or not. So today we are going to be looking at wireless attacks, how to crack Wi-Fi passwords. So let's get started and let's dive into the slides. So going on the slides, so first of all, today we'll be looking at understanding network attacks. Okay, so going on, I'm looking at network basics. What is a MAC address? What is a chipset wireless card adapter? What is a MAC changer? What is a word list? So let's get started. And first of all, I'll talk about network basics. So let's discuss what a network is. So, like I said, we are learning how to carry out a network attack tonight. So we have to understand what a network is. So what is a network? A network is a group of two or more devices that are connected to each other. And the goal is that at the end of the day, that connection will ensure that data can be shared amongst the devices in that connection. Okay, so basically a network contains a number of different computer systems or devices that are physically or wirelessly connected, okay, for instance, like a server or a router. So this is essentially what a network is you bringing together several, computer devices, and it can be, let's say, a router, a switch, a PC. And I think I have a diagram that best describes that. So as you can see, to my left, we have some laptops there, device one, device two, and device three. And in the middle, we have a router or something that we can say an AP. Okay, in networking, what is an AP? An AP is simply called an access point. Okay, so an access point is more like a networking device that grants end users access to another network, or we can say access to the internet. Okay, so in this case, we have an AP, or we can say a router in the middle, and then to the right we can see the internet sign there. So these three devices over here, they want to be able to reach the internet, and so what would they do? They would simply have to use the AP to get access to the internet. Okay, so we have three end devices here, and you can see the arrows over there, the requests and responses. So these end devices to my left, They are called, of course, end devices. I've already mentioned what they are already. They are end devices. So what are end devices? End devices are computer devices that terminate a line of communication. For example, your phone, your laptop, your printer, your television, your smart TV, all these things brought together, they are actually what you call end devices. Okay, so these end devices, as you can see, they need to have access to the internet. And so what do? They send what we call request packets to the router, requesting that they will be granted access to the internet. And then the router responds with the access. Okay, so that is the connectivity between the end device and the router, which in turn grants the end devices access to the internet. So going on, um, another concept we'll be discussing today in our class today is what is a MAC address. Now, before I go into MAC address in networking, it is worthy of note that since we have a network whereby we have different devices that are connected, one thing is essential to identify those devices. There are actually two addresses that identifies a device in a given network. The first of them is called IP address. So what is an IP address? It's simply a number that identifies a device in a given network. So it depends on the network that the device is located, or we can say that the host is located in. So let's say if that host is in network A, that host has an ID, okay, in that network A. But if that host switches from network A to network B, its address, its ID is going to change because it has now gotten a different network. So IP address is the change based on the network that you are at the moment connected to. But when it comes to MAC address, it is also an address, but this time the word MAC address simply means media access control address, and is simply a distinct serial number given to each interface from the factory by its vendor or manufacturer. What this means is that this is also an address that identifies a device in a given network, but right now this address is permanent, meaning it doesn't change. The best you can do is to spoof it, meaning to take on someone else's MAC address. That is the best that you can do, but you cannot really change it. Okay, so this MAC address identifies your device in a given network. Okay, all right. So another thing about MAC address is we'll be looking at what is the use, or what are the uses of MAC address in hacking. Now we have two main purposes for MAC address in hacking. Number one is to impersonate another computer on a network, in the sense that we have a Wi-Fi connected PC. So here, imagine a Wi-Fi whereby, or a network whereby for you to connect into that network, your MAC address has to be registered on the router or the switch. Okay, and you are the attacker. You want to gain access into that router, but you don't, your MAC address, okay, is not registered on that device that will give you the internet access. So what will you have to do? You will have to impersonate somebody that is in that network by taking on their MAC address. And even in this class, I will teach you how to even see the MAC addresses of devices connected to a network. And believe me, you don't have to be connected to that network. You can stay outside the network and see who and who are in a given network. That's wonderful. Another purpose that we'll be using MAC address for in ethical hacking is, with MAC address, you can track a computer over time across different sessions and networks. Like I said, that MAC address does not change, okay? Like how your IP change. Your IP changes based on your network, but when it comes to your MAC address, it doesn't change. So even though you are in network A, network B, network C, network D, your MAC address remains constant. Okay, so that MAC address can be used to track a device over time across different sessions or different networks. So let's go to our next slide over here. Now, There is a concept in hacking called MAC address spoofing, which I have already made mention of. This is whereby we change the MAC address, okay, that can help us to bypass certain network restrictions by emulating an unrestricted MAC address, or we can say a spoofed MAC address. What I mean is this: imagine you have a router, like I said before, and that router, verified MAC addresses are the only devices, okay, that can have access. And so we can spoof a verified MAC address. In other words, we can clone it. I mean, we can log out the person that is verified and take that person's MAC address to become ours for the moment and log in as that individual or as that computer. Okay, so that technique is called MAC address spoofing. That's wonderful. And by the way, I'm going to show you how to, achieve that. So let's go on now. Even in this class, we are going to be using a tool that can help us to achieve these Wi-Fi attacks or wireless attacks. And the tool is what we can see here. It's simply a wireless adapter. And this is a tool. I currently have it here with me. Okay, so it has an antenna and then a USB chip plug-in. Okay, so all I have to do is bring the antenna and the actual tool itself and screw it in together. Okay, and once I screw it in together, as you can see, we now have our antenna here. Okay, so this antenna will become the tool I will be using to carry out my hack tonight. So stay tuned. So now this is a tool that we need to use for our hacking tonight. Okay, so going on, another concept I would like to bring us to is what is a word list, or we can say word list. So in hacking, a word list is a file that contains a list of words or possible passwords that are used for various types of attacks, primarily for password cracking. So what this means is that when we get to the point of actually cracking the Wi-Fi password, we would need this word list. Now, this word list contains several possible passwords in it. All right, and all we have to do is to launch that file that contains several possible passwords against the login of the Wi-Fi, and our computer can automate the trying process until it finds a matching password. Okay, so that is the goal of a word list. So anyways, I think it's high time we get started. So I would like us to get into our Kali Linux and let's get the job done. So right now I'm going over to my Kali, and at the moment you simply log into your Kali and put in your password, and my Kali is coming right up. So this Kali Linux, I showed us already how to play with the machine since on Tuesday. So you can always make reference to the video on our YouTube channel, Day 2 for Cybersecurity, and you'll be good to go. So right now I am in my Kali Linux, okay, and all I will have to do is get my adapter, okay, and plug into this my system. So right now I'm plugging this adapter into my system. It has a USB point, so I'm plugging this guy into my USB port at the moment. But now, after plugging in the antenna into the USB port, I have one more thing to do. That one more thing now is to ensure that this Wi-Fi adapter, okay, is an external Wi-Fi adapter. I want to ensure that my Kali has contact with it. So what do I do? Simply come over here to the menu tab. Okay, so over here on the menu tab, I will click on devices, okay, and then click on USB, and you will see under USB we have several options here, okay. And by the way, this my adapter is called a Theros adapter, and if you need a piece of it, you can contact Loctest customer care, all right, or you can drop a message and we can in fact ship it right to you. Okay, so by the way, I'm going to click on the Atheros checkbox over here. The Atheros simply refers to this my adapter. Okay, so I'll click on this button for the Atheros UB93. Click on it, and at the moment, my adapter is plugged in. Now, how do I know that this adapter is plugged in? All I have to do is come down over here on this angle. You can see this USB icon. If it is blinking or showing a kind of a orange light, or you can keep your cursor on that USB and you can see the name of the adapter that is plugged in. So right now my Kali has contact with the USB, the Wi-Fi adapter itself. Okay, so all I have to do is simply go and open up my command line interface. So right now I would simply open up the terminal emulator, and in here I'm going to try to checkmate and see if my adapter is active on my Kali Linux. So the command is ifconfig. Now the ifconfig command shows you all available network adapters on your machine. So I want to see if this wireless adapter has now become part of my Kali Linux. So I'm going to hit enter, and if you look over here, you can see that we have several. In my own case, I have several adapters here. I have Docker 0, I have ETH 0, I have LO, and also where we have focused on is WLAN 0. So once if your adapter connection is successful, you will definitely see this guy WLAN 0. So WLAN 0 is my external Wi-Fi adapter or my external Wi-Fi card that is plugged into my Kali, and you can see it has its own MAC address, so on and so forth. So right now, the next thing we have to checkmate is we need to be able to use this guy for what we want to do. But for us to achieve that, we need to set this adapter to be on a mode called the monitor mode. Now, the monitor mode is what this my external adapter supports, whereby it can monitor networks that this my PC is not directly connected to. I don't have to be in someone's network to see what is going on there. That is the power of the monitoring mode of this tool. So at the moment, we are going to check and checkmate the mode of this tool and see whether it's on the monitor mode or if it's on the manage mode. Now, the manage mode of a network adapter is where all random network adapters function on. Okay, your normal PC, once you open up the Wi-Fi button, you will see the available networks, and then you have to connect to it to now have access. That is the manage mode. But in the monitor mode, I don't have to connect to be able to manipulate. I can stay outside and manipulate that network. So right now, I'm going to check the mode of this adapter, and the command is iwconfig. iwconfig is a command that is used to check the mode of the adapter. So iwconfig, enter, and we can see that WLAN 0, okay, the mode is managed. That means we have to set the mode to become monitor. Okay, how do we do so? Very, very simple. The first thing we are going to do before changing the mode is to shut down any process in our Kali machine, any running service that may want to interrupt these external adapters operation. So what do we do? How do we disable potential processes that may be fighting this adapter? The command is sudo mon -ng, okay, and we'll say check kill. So sudo mon -ng check kill. Now this command will simply checkmate my entire Kali Linux and look for any process that might be obstructing my Wi-Fi card. So I'll simply hit enter and put in my password, and at the moment, of course, it has killed a process called WPA supplicant, okay, PID 1412. So that's fine. So I think the process that may be obstructing this our adapter has been taken out of the way. So right now, what we have to do is to set our adapter to now be on the monitor mode, and the command is sudo airmon -ng start woolan 0. Now this command is going to start the monitor mode on this our adapter. That's why we hit enter, and at the moment it is changing. So I will run that IW config again, the command that shows us the mode available on the device. IW config, and as you can see, the mode has changed to what? To monitor. So right now our adapter is now on the monitor mode. So we have successfully set our adapter to become a monitoring device against any network at all. So now what do we do next? The next thing now is to actually monitor our environment. So this my adapter can scan over let's say 2 to 3 compounds. Okay, so it's a whole lot of range that this my data can really cover. So right now I'm going to run the command that would actually begin the monitoring, okay, on my environment, and I would see all the available Wi-Fi's within my environment. So right now I'm even going to in fact turn on a hotspot at the moment to ensure that we can have much more to see. So I'm going to say, okay, sudo airmon-ng, and I would say, okay, just a moment. Before I do the scanning, let's check if our adapter has changed its name. So right now you can see that our adapter is no more WLAN 0 anymore. It's now WLAN 0 mon. So once your adapter is on the monitor mode, the name of the adapter will no more be WLAN 0, but it will now be WLAN 0 mon. That mon means that the adapter is now on the monitor mode. Okay, so the next thing I will say is sudo airmon-ng sudo airmon-ng, and I'll say start woolan 0 mon. Okay, the name of my adapter. So I am starting this my adapter to begin the monitor. I meant, sorry, I think there's a mistake here in my command. So the command should be sudo aerodump instead, please. So sudo aerodump-ng. Yeah, that's the correct command. So sudo aerodump-ng starts the monitoring of my environment. So I'll simply hit enter, and oops, sorry, the command start shouldn't be there. So enter, and at the moment we can see the available networks over here. So I have approximately, I have 3. Okay, so more are still coming up. You can see we have SWE station 2, we have app.novia, we have MTN 5G 353E17, we have MTN 4G 6E193F, and we have app station 2. So we have several Wi-Fi's that are currently within my radius. Okay, so the next thing now is to actually begin the monitoring. So right now my adapter can see the available networks in my environment. The next thing now is I need to now choose the network I want to focus on. So let's say I focus on probably let's say maybe MTN 5G. Okay, let's try MTN 5G today. Okay, I can focus on MTN 5G. So I'm simply going to say, okay, Control C. That's fine. Now, this time, when I want to focus on a particular router, what I have to do is that I need to write my scan, okay, into a file so that I can always analyze it. But now, why do I need to write that my scan, that my monitoring into a file? Is because I'm looking for something. And that thing is called an EAPOL packet. Now, the EAPOL packet is what contains the the password of Wi-Fi, like the authentication keys of Wi-Fi. Now, how does this thing work? Like I said before, now that once you have an AP in a given network, you have a router and then you have an end device, and that router is the access point for the end device to reach the internet. So at first, the end device, okay, sends requests to the router, and then the router responds to the end device. But let's say we have a scenario whereby this end device wants to connect to the router. Okay, so what happens? You go to your Wi-Fi, and then maybe you scan up, and then you see a Wi-Fi name and SSID. You click on it, you type in the password. You get what I'm saying now? So that's the scenario. An end device sees a network. That end device needs to connect into that network. So what does it do? It sends a request packet asking the router if the router can allow it to come into that network. Now, if that router's network is passworded, the router would send a response that, okay, Mr. End device, if you want to come in, you have to tell me the password to verify you are a verified user. And then the end device would respond with the password. The router will checkmate the password and then respond with the access that, okay, true, the passkey is correct, you can now have access. So it's a four-way handshake. The first handshake is that the end device sends a request to the router that it wants to connect to the router. The second handshake is that the router responds that, okay, you want to come in, what is the password? The third handshake is that the end device now puts in the password, okay, and then the router responds and says, okay, this is the passkey for you to come in. Now, this is how end devices are authenticated to come into a network. Now, I myself am an attacker. Okay, at the moment, I don't have the password to that network. I am not a verified user of that network. So what should I do? What I have to do is very, very simple. I'm simply going to say, okay, I am going to observe the network. You see, like I said, that particular communication between the end device and the router is called a four-way handshake. And that four-way handshake contains the password. So what I would do is that I'm going to use my adapter to monitor when somebody is connecting to the router. And when the end device is trying to gain connection between itself and the router, that four-way handshake that contains the password is going to happen. And my adapter, okay, is going to capture that handshake. And that handshake is what contains the password I want to use to log in into the router. Now, what if I am monitoring the network and then nobody is logging in at the moment? What do? I will simply have to log out somebody for a couple of seconds, and that person want to try to reconnect back. And while they try to reconnect back, that handshake must occur. And while the handshake goes on, my Kali is listening, is capturing the handshake, and I have the EAP hole or the EAP hole packet that contains the password. And then we can now from there go on to crack the Wi-Fi. So let's get into business. So right now, how do we carry out the scan that would help us to capture, the password or the packet that contains the password? Going on and beautiful. The command is sudo, I will say arrow dump -ng, and this time I will say -w space, and I'll call the name. Now this -w simply means I want to write my arrow dump scan. Now arrow dump is a tool that is used to scan the network or to scan what is going on in a particular network. Okay, so arrow dump, I want you to write your scan into something. So the -w there simply means write. Okay, -w means write. So right now I want to write my scan into a file. So -w, then I will call the name of the file that the scan should be saved as. So I can just simply say maybe boot scan, okay, should be the file name. Then now space. The next thing that would be, I would say dash dash C, or we can say double dash BSSID first of all before dash C. So now that double dash BSSID simply refers to the MAC address of the router that I'm focusing my scan on. As you can see, we have several routers over here, okay? And if you look over here, BSSID has a column of its own, okay? As you can see over here, BSSID simply means the MAC address of the router, okay? So we have several MAC addresses over here. And for this MTN 5G, this is the MAC address 98A94235-3E17. That is the MAC address of the router I'm focusing my attack on. So I'll simply copy the MAC address, right click, click on copy selection. Then I'm going to paste the MAC address. So now the next thing now is this router is on what channel? I can say dash C. Now dash C simply means channel number. This router 5G is on channel number 1. So I'll say dash C space 1. And the final argument now will now be the name of the adapter I am using to carry out this activity, which is WLAN 0 more. I'm going to hit enter. And as you can see, right now, it is monitoring the network. Okay, so let's see who is connected into that network. So let's see whether there's anybody on that router. If there is nobody, we have to look for a network where we have people in it, okay? So that we can log out somebody, and when we try to log in, we can capture the handshake, okay, and have the password. So by the way, at the moment, nobody has connected yet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to also look for another network to focus on. So simply Ctrl C, and I will run my sudo aero-ng WLAN 0 mon again afresh to see if I can find any other network I want to focus on. So right now, okay, let's say I can look out at let's try out Appnovia, okay, for at the moment. So let's try Appnovia, or let's look over here and see. I think this one over here, 024CE33F1970, has a device plugged into it, and that is among I think this first guy over here, okay, the MTN 4G 6E193F. Okay, so I think let's focus on that guy. So I'll simply Ctrl C, and this time my scan would be on this router instead. So I will highlight it, copy the MAC address. So I'll come in here, and I'm going to paste this over here, and the channel number is number 11. Okay, and then so let's see if we can find anybody. It's quite funny. Come on, somebody should be in this network. Somebody should be, or have the person disconnected. So we can, because right now, how do I know if there are people in the network? If you look down here on that station, I'm supposed to see several MAC addresses. Okay, so we're going to scan again. Let's try app station, or I mean app.novia. I guess I saw a Wi-Fi there, so I'll scan another one and try app.novia. So I can see app.novia. I'm going to run my scan again against app.novia, and the MAC address of app.novia, I will look out for it. So this is it, app.novia MAC address. I'll come in here and paste it. So -C, and app.novia is under channel number 1. So okay. So AppNovia has a client connected to it, just one person, okay? On that station, you can see who is plugged into app.novia. All right, 28E34722D8 okay? So I can see a device that is connected to AppNovia, and all I can do is to simply de-authenticate this guy, because at the moment only one person is on this network. So I can de-authenticate this guy, and then while he tries to reconnect, I can have the handshake that I'm looking for. So I'll simply duplicate my screen. I'll duplicate it horizontally, okay? So I have over here at the top, I have the scan going on, and over here another scan is going on. So here now I can say, okay, sudo. Now this is the command to carry out a de-authentication attack. Okay, so I want to de-authenticate somebody out of this network. I'll simply say sudo air replay -ng --deauth, and I'll just say, okay, for a couple of seconds, I'm going to de-authenticate this guy. Let's say for a couple of, let's say 30 seconds. Then I would say -A. Now, -A simply means the access point I'm actually attacking, the MAC address of, the router itself. So I'll simply paste in the router MAC address, and I'll say -C, which means the actual device I want to log out of this router, which is 28:47:22:D8:2F. Okay, and the next thing now is to call, the name of my interface that I'm using to carry out the hack, and I'll hit enter and put in my password. And so at the moment it's going to for a while disconnect the client for 30 seconds. So it's taking place. Let's keep watching. Okay, this client has not been disconnected yet. So I'm going to run this again. I can increase the number of seconds to, let's say, 60 to ensure that, or let's say 70 to ensure that our de-authentication is successful, because we need to de-authenticate the user until we have the handshake we are looking for. So while this is going on, we are going to go on a short break, and I'll be back in a few seconds. All right, so welcome back. So I'm going to Control C this, and I'm also going to Control C over here. So if I say ls, I think we saved the file that we were scanning at, what was the name again? We used bootcamp as the name. Yeah, bootcamp as the modifier that we're saving the scan into. So all I have to do is just simply say, okay, Wireshark. Let me just run the ls command and see if I have my bootcamp file here. Just a moment. Yeah, okay, I can see the boot scan. Yeah, boot scan, that was the name. So boot scan. So I'll say, okay, Wireshark boot scan. Let's see if it captured a handshake. So boot scan, bootscan.cap, and I'm using Wireshark to open up that file. So let me zoom in so that we can all see clearly. So right now, this is the packet analysis of that network I was focusing on. So I'll simply come in here and search for EAPOL, hit enter, and let's see if we can find, okay, so nothing was captured yet at the moment. So we'll go back again and try this again. Sometimes you can have some hiccups, you know. So I'm going to run one more scan again on that same network. So sudo arrow dump, and now it's another name, -w. I can just say hello as the file name. Well, let me just do the scan first of all. So I can say Wulan 0mon 090, and so we can see app station, app.novia. Okay, so I'm going to simply attack app.novia or this Galaxy C. Okay, so I'll simply say, okay, this Galaxy C, let's see if the MAC address, okay, and is on channel 2. So I'll simply copy this MAC address, copy selection, then I'll say sudo arrow dump -ng, and I will call up, I can say, okay, the file should be called hello -bssid, and I'll paste the MAC address, then -c for channel number is on channel 2, and I'm using Wulan 0 mon. Okay, so my scan has begun, and I can see that. So let's just scan and see if we can have a handshake at the moment. Okay, so I'll duplicate my screen. So I can put it vertically. So over here, I'm going to run my scan until I have a handshake. So I'll say sudo arrow dump -ng. Sorry, sudo air replay rather, please. Sudo air replay -ng --dauth 0, and I can say -a, and I can paste the MAC address of the router I said, then I can call up my interface. And so right now it's deauthenticating, and let's look forward to capturing a handshake. So it's authenticating. So let's see. Okay, so right now we've gotten a handshake over here. So I'm going to simply Control C this and come over here and Control C as well. So as you can see, we have a WPA handshake over here. Now this is the handshake that we need to be able to crack the Wi-Fi. So I'm going to close this terminal over here. And yeah, so we have gotten the handshake for this network. As you can see, WPA handshake has been gotten. So I'll simply say, okay, um, using Wireshark to open up the tool or to open up the file that has a handshake. So I will say hello and .cap. So it's opening up at the moment, and this is my Wireshark tool. And if I zoom in over here and come to the display filter and simply type in EAPOL and hit enter, you can see I have the handshake that contains the password. Okay, so definitely if I go to handshake 3 or 4 and I let me zoom out a little bit so you can see what I'm saying. So here now I am on handshake 3 or 4. Like I mentioned, that the router and the end device, they have actually 4 handshakes. The first handshake is the end device making request to the router that it wants to come in. The router responds and say, okay, put in your password. And the third handshake is where the password most times actually is. So I will click on this is 3 or 4 and come over here to 802.1x authentication down here. Okay, now this is where the password usually is contained. So I'll click over here, and if I scroll down, we can see that down here we can see the WPA key data. Now this is the password, but in an encrypted format. If you look over here, this is the hash of the password. Okay, it's looking encrypted. All right. So now in our next class, we are going to learn how to crack this encryption. So right now we have gotten our handshake. So in our next class, I'll be showing you, being tomorrow, how to actually break the password because we're already out of time. So I would like you to stay tuned by tomorrow by 7 p.m. I'll be here again. I'll be finally finishing this project of cracking these password. In fact, I'll be teaching you how to create your own word list that you can use to crack Wi-Fi passwords, and would also use a word list in our Kali to actually break a password. So don't miss tomorrow class. I will see you by 7 p.m. Have a good and blessed evening.